Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
Good to have you with us. I'm Jane McCarthy. It was a murder that went unsolved for 2 years. Now the case is moving forward against the North Idaho woman charged with killing a former city clerk.
Shirley Ramey was shot and killed in her rural Bonner County home back in 2017, but it wasn't until a couple of months ago that her accused killer was arrested.
KREM Chief Taylor Vito was in court and brings us new information tonight.
Notably, today we learned that, according to testimony, cell phone records placed the suspect in Bonner County the day of the murder. Other testimony also focused on her mental health.
You know, this woman come to my home and killed my wife.
It's the first time many from the small town of Hope, Idaho, saw face-to-face the woman who's accused of rattling their community. It was also the first time Daryl Ramey saw the woman accused of gunning down his wife.
Finding my wife laying dead in a pile in blood was the worst day of my life.
The case made headlines in April of 2017. Shirley Ramey, the former city clerk in Hope, was found shot to death in her rural home about 1.5 miles off the main highway. It wasn't clear who pulled the trigger, and the case went cold for nearly 2 years. Then, this past summer, detectives ID'd a Coeur d'Alene woman, Judith Carpenter, as the suspect. The afternoon of the murder, it would turn out, she was arrested in a road rage incident in Montana, and a federal gun database eventually linked a pistol she had to the Ramey crime scene. Carpenter also had a rifle that was stolen from the Ramey home, investigators said.
And I'm sure the court will do the right thing and make sure that there's justice done.
Today, both sides made their case before a judge during a preliminary hearing. Daryl testified about what happened the day he found his wife. We also heard from detectives who followed the case. Carpenter's mental health was somewhat scrutinized. One of the deputies who arrested Carpenter in Montana called her behavior, quote, delusional. That deputy at the time requested she undergo a mental health evaluation. Carpenter had claimed that someone had stolen her identity and she had tried crossing into Canada. Prosecutors also noted that she had spent time at an Idaho State mental hospital. Testimony from a detective revealed that the morning of the murder, Carpenter called 911 while in Kootenai County, claiming that someone was trying to break into her home. Cell phone records would later place her in Bonner County the hour leading up to the murder. Other testimony focused on bullet casings found at the scene and the science which linked them to Carpenter's gun. Her lawyers questioned some of the science and the way evidence was collected in the case. A detective noted that nothing in their investigation revealed a clear motive for the killing or any connections between Carpenter and Ramey. Carpenter's lawyers played that up. Now, when it was the prosecutor's turn, one lawyer stated, quote, "We know that the kill shot came from Carpenter's Glock," end quote. He said Carpenter wanted to shoot someone. A judge ultimately agreed that there was enough evidence in the case to have it move forward to district court. He called the case, quote, complex and remarkable. Carpenter's next court date will be later this month. Outside the Bonner County Courthouse, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.
I think about it every night, and even thinking about it makes me want to cry.
That is the voice of a stabbing victim from October of last year. He was one of 3 people attacked by Joseph Murray in downtown Spokane. Spokane police officers say all 3 stabbings happened within an hour, and one of the victims says the attack still haunts him a year later.
All of a sudden, I felt a sharp jab through the back. He stabbed me on the first side, through my lungs. Then he stabbed me again on the right side, and then I started to scream.
Over the course of the year, Murray received a handful of mental evaluations to determine competency for trial. These evaluations could explain the multiple requests to delay his hearings. Court records show the suspect is expected back in court November 1st for his assault charges.
We want to have those alerts as rapidly as is reasonable out there, give people the maximum amount of time to prepare for the shaking.
An earthquake warning app will be available in Washington next year. It's made by teams from the U.S. Geological Survey and the University of Washington. The app is designed to send you an alert before the shaking reaches you.
Now, how much warning you get depends on how far away you are from the center of the earthquake. It could be a few minutes or even just a few seconds, but the idea is to give people enough time to at least take cover. The Shake Alert app will be released next October. Well, put an ear to the ground on Mars and you'll be rewarded with a symphony of sounds. NASA's InSight lander got to experience that firsthand.
Yeah, the sounds were picked up back in April, but are now just being released. Take a listen.
Well, it may not sound like much to us, but it's actually a great find for scientists. These sounds are Mars quakes, seismic waves moving through the planet's interior. For scientists, these light sounds can reveal the deep inner structure of Mars. Aha, that's science. And we know that Chief Meteorologist Tom Sherry loves science and he loves a good forecast.
Yeah, it's improving, right, Tom?
It is. I think we're going to see temperatures get into the 60s by Sunday and maybe even into the mid to upper 60s on Monday and Tuesday. In the meantime, 53 degrees. Got some cloud cover that has moved in, but we still had a beautiful fall day. Boy, those deciduous trees right now, I'm trying to keep up with the leaves falling, but my gosh, they are absolutely gorgeous, especially when the sun is out. Another chilly night tonight, but it will be above freezing. We were below freezing this morning, but tonight we'll look for an overnight low of 36. 57 expected tomorrow. Look for daytime highs to climb into the upper 50s on Saturday, 62 on Sunday with a slight chance of rain on Saturday, as well as tomorrow. We'll talk more about that with a look at your 10-day extended outlook in just a few minutes.
All right, Tom, sounds good. As the impeachment inquiry moves forward, the president keeps saying that he wants to know the whistleblower's identity, despite measures in place aimed to protect the identity of whistleblowers.
The president is using Twitter to express his frustrations about the impeachment inquiry and his desire to meet the whistleblower. Just this week, he wrote, quote, "Like every American, I deserve to meet my accuser, especially when this accuser, the so-called whistleblower, represented a perfect conversation with a foreign leader in a totally inaccurate and fraudulent way." Under the intelligence community's Whistleblower Protection Act, this meetup cannot happen.
Whistleblower protection laws exist so a person's identity can be protected, but that is not stopping people from trying to uncover the whistleblower's identity. During a press conference at the White House, President Trump agrees with the Protection Act, but does not think that it applies in this case.
Look, I think a whistleblower should be protected if the whistleblower's legitimate. But when the whistleblower makes a big report on the conversation I had with a president of Ukraine, and it was a great conversation, the whistleblower wrote not that conversation. He wrote a vicious conversation. In other words, he either got it totally wrong, made it up, or the person giving the information to the whistleblower was dishonest. And this country has to find out who that person was, because that person's a spy, in my opinion.
Well, two people are offering up a $50,000 reward for the person's name. Now the whistleblower's attorneys are expressing worry for their client's safety. The lawyers cited the president's remark and the bounty as a cause for that fear. Meantime, as the vaping epidemic grows, several advocacy groups in Idaho are hoping to bump up the vaping age to the age of 21. Right now in Idaho, you can buy e-cigarettes if you're over 18 years old. And these groups say they plan to bring the Tobacco 21 measure before lawmakers during the 2020 session with a focus on e-cigarettes.
And we know that young people have 18-year-old friends. So if we can push the age as late as possible, we reduce access and we reduce the likelihood that a young person will initiate and become addicted.
National data shows tobacco use as a whole is increasing among teens. So far, the CDC reports more than 800 people have gotten sick because of vaping and more than 15 people have died because of it. Nearly 2/3 of patients are under the age of 34.
And a new vaping tax is in effect now in Washington. Vapors of so-called open systems, which are reusable and refillable products, will now pay around a 12% excise tax on juices.
Closed systems use products like the Juul pods would pay about a 4.5% tax. That tax is expected to raise $25 to $30 million a year, and with that money going toward education, enforcement, and cancer research. Oregon's wildfire season is officially over, making it the shortest season in 20 years.
The season only lasted 99 days. On top of that, numbers from Oregon's Department of Forestry show the total number of acres burned was 56% lower than average. As the state says goodbye to fire season, forestry districts are turning their attention now to wildfire prevention. Crews will be working to clear vegetation, create defensible space, and keep debris piles under control.
Fire crews are doing the same thing in our area. The Coeur d'Alene River Ranger District is working on a prescribed burn on Canfield Mountain. Crews are burning 400 acres of slash piles. So if you see smoke in the Coeur d'Alene area, that's why.